Hi everyone, my name is Emily Hines. I am a current intern with Virginia Cooperative Extension in Wise County. I'm also a recent graduate of Virginia Tech, so I majored in animal and poultry sciences and then also got a minor in creative writing. So today I just want to spend a couple minutes talking to y'all about nature journaling, and I'm going to give you a few tips to get you started if this is something you've never done before, and I hope you enjoy it. So we're going to approach nature journaling as a form of creative nonfiction, which is really nice because that means that you're going to be taking your real experiences and turning them into something that is informative, but something that's a piece of creative writing at the same time. So I'm going to start out with a quote from Nikki Giovanni that says, "Writing is a conversation with reading, a dialogue with thinking." Basically, it's this communication between not only what you're seeing, but what you're thinking and what you're feeling as well. And I think we tend to get really caught up in catching all of the details and facts, which are also important, but we also tend to forget that without being able to add our own opinions and our own thoughts, it becomes kind of one-dimensional, and a lot of people get bored or discouraged kind of at this point. And if you're one of those people who enjoy writing and enjoy keeping records of where you've been, then journaling is kind of that perfect way to preserve those memories. And if you've never tried it before, it's a really easy thing to start and a low-cost hobby to pick up. And it's a great way to make yourself slow down and really enjoy what's around you a little bit more. So I'm going to start out with just a few general tips to help you get started if this is something that you've never really tried before or never really thought about before. And the first one is to take notes as you go. And it's easy to think that you're going to remember everything later, but unfortunately, if you're anything like me at least, then you forget the little details really quickly. And it's those details that are really going to be important to you later on. So take your time as you're going and look at everything around you. And this actually gets a lot harder if it's a trail or an area that you're really familiar with. But every time you go back, try to look at it as if it's the first time you've seen it. So try to give it a fresh perspective. And you're always going to pick up something new and different. So part of this is because you are in nature. Things are always changing. So nothing is going to look exactly the same 2 times in a row. And then another part of it is that we just get so used to seeing things that we actually stop noticing. So something that's pretty popular in photography is to go back and take the same picture in all 4 seasons in the same place, and that can actually be really easily adapted to journaling as well. So take that same hike at different times of the year and invest some time into really seeing how things change throughout those seasons. Another tip is try to be as vivid as you can, and this also goes back to not wanting to miss those really small details that are going to matter. And when you go back and read it later, basically what you're trying to do is re-immerse yourself in that experience. And it's going to be so much more real to you if those details are sharp. If someone else is reading it, then you really want them to get a good idea of what it was like to be there. And I would really suggest investing some time into hiking shorter distances, but then making them take longer. So once you stop focusing on trying to make so many miles or trying to go so far, you start slowing down and you start seeing things differently and you start seeing new things. So also just get away from how things look for a while. And I know that's usually our go-to because it's right there in front of us and it's pretty easy. And I think that we kind of process things as what we see is the most important. But in my opinion, this is kind of where writing about a place can get an edge over just taking a picture of a place. Because writing honestly really easily expresses sounds and smells and textures and temperatures in a way that photographers have to put a lot of time and a lot of effort into capturing even just one of those aspects. So for me, I really tend to focus on sounds and smells because those are the dynamic parts of an environment that are always changing. But there are so many things that you can add, once again, just depending on what's important to you. So if you take pictures while you hike, take a picture of a plant, then feel it and smell it if you can. And you can do this with anything. It doesn't just have to be plants. But try to really focus on those things that aren't just sight. Get really quiet and still and just listen for a minute. I usually really like to do this if I'm close to water because that's just something that's really special to me personally. I love the sound of running water, or if I'm at a lake, I love the sound of hearing the fish jump occasionally or something jumping into the water. I love the sound of rain. You have to find whatever those senses and places are that mean a lot to you and then use them when you can. It's okay if they kind of keep popping up throughout your writing. If it's something that's prevalent in the places that you're going, then you don't have to feel like, oh, I've written about this a couple times from a couple other places, I don't need to keep using it. It's completely okay to keep using it if that's something that does keep coming up in the environment that you're in, and if it's something that's really important to you. So another big thing that I think people really get caught up in a lot of times is this thing of, do you have to stay objective, or can you bring in some of those subjective aspects too? And this is where we go back to approaching nature journaling as being a form of creative nonfiction. And one of the great things when you start to do that is that it really intends for you to use both. So what you have right in front of you, the places, seasons, time of day, temperature, all of that is the objective stuff that you use as the framework for your piece. Then you take it and you flesh it out with all those other subjective pieces. So what you felt, what you thought, what you liked, what you didn't like, and how much you use of each is totally up to you. It depends on, once again, where you want to put your focus. And this is where it becomes something that no one else could replicate. You and I could go to the same places together, see the exact same things, spend the same amount of time there, but when we start putting the subjective parts into a piece of writing, then it becomes two totally different experiences. And if you want to still keep that subjective and objective separate, if you want, you can. Me, I like to have journals for everything just because I tend to want to keep all my ideas and thoughts separated and organized a little bit differently. So I have a notebook that I use just for the objective part, kind of like an identification notebook, and it looks more like pages of bulleted lists and pictures. And I think for people who have done nature journaling before, that this is what their nature journals kind of tend to look like, and then kind of also where they stop, which is totally fine if that's what you want to do, and if that's what you enjoy doing, and two, where you feel like you're getting the most out of it. And a lot of time there's going to be a picture at the top of the page, and then the name and some facts about whatever it is you're writing about. And that kind of system honestly does help to keep it a lot easier if you're going back and forth and trying to find something specific, but don't want to spend the extra time looking through a bunch of other stuff. And I would encourage you to try to do another page, though, with everything else on it as well. For me, once again, just because I like to keep things organized a little bit different, I keep that in a totally separate notebook. But you can still keep your ID photos and stuff and still do a different kind of journal too. You can tailor it to anything you want it to be. And this goes back to taking notes as you go. You have them with you. You're not going to lose them. So you can really invest that time in figuring out the style and the organization that works best for you and how you want to keep it, whether that is on paper or whether that's in a Word document somewhere, and whether it's one or two different places. You have those notes to keep you kind of on track, so you can take that time and don't have to worry about just getting it down quickly before you forget it. And then one last thing I want to mention very quickly is kind of what else you can do with the writing if you're interested in it. And the nice thing about all of this being based in real places and times and real experiences is that it makes it an easy backdrop for other pieces of writing to come out of. So you can use it to become a setting for a piece of fiction, use it as the basis for poetry if you enjoy writing poetry, or you can really even use it as a starting place for an essay or a different type of creative nonfiction. And these are things that you can actually all submit for publication if you would like later on down the road. And there really is an interest in pieces set in the Appalachian area, and I think I've even seen that more growing in the past couple of years. And that's something that if you're comfortable with and something that you're interested in, then you can take the journal of places that you've been, and it can be a good starting place to expand into other types of writing and kind of begin that growing process into exploring other types of writing as well. So that's all I have for you. I hope you enjoyed it and got something out of it, and I hope you really enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.